The email from my patent attorney arrived at 9:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. Mr. Chen, someone is attempting to transfer your bridge reinforcement patent. Please confirm this authorization immediately. But I never authorized any transfer. Within 72 hours, I discovered my son had forged my signature to steal my $380,000 patent and my $850,000 home. 2 weeks later, I had him in court, listening to recordings of him planning to dump me in a nursing home. I spent 42 years as an engineer building bridges. I never thought I'd need to burn one. Subscribe to hear more stories of justice, revenge, and the truth that always comes out. The coffee was still hot when the notification chimed. I was sitting in my study, surrounded by rolled blueprints and framed photos of bridges I designed over 4 decades. The morning light came to the window at exactly the angle I liked, south-facing, 42 degrees, perfect for reading technical documents without glare. Engineers notice these things. I opened my laptop. The email from David Rosen, my patent attorney for the past 15 years, had a red exclamation mark. Subject: urgent patent transfer attempt. Immediate action required. My hand paused over the trackpad. I clicked. Robert, I received a transfer request this morning for patent US 10234567B2, bridge reinforcement system, using adaptive load distribution. The request includes what appears to be your signature authorizing transfer of ownership to Marcus Chen. I'm required to process this within 10 business days, unless you object. Please confirm immediately whether this transfer is authorized. If you did not authorize this, we have a serious problem. David, I read it twice, then a third time. Marcus Chen, my son. The words didn't make sense. I'd taught Marcus to ride a bike, paid for his college, held his hand at his mother's funeral 3 years ago. Why would his name be on my patent? I scrolled down. There was an attachment. Transfer_authorization_skin.pdf. I opened it. The document looked official. Patent office letterhead, legal language, technical specifications of my bridge reinforcement system. At the bottom, a signature. My signature, except it wasn't. I've signed my name approximately 50,000 times in my career. Every blueprint, every contract, every technical specification requires a signature. An engineer's signature is a promise that the calculations are correct, that the structure will hold, that lives depend on your precision. I know my signature like I know the load-bearing capacity of steel. The signature on the document was close, very close, but the R was wrong. When I signed, the tail of my R loops back, a habit from drafting class in 1976, when we still drew by hand. This R was straight. Whoever forged this didn't know about that detail. But someone who'd watched me sign documents for 38 years might think they could replicate it. Someone like my son. My chest tightened. I stood up, walked to the window, tried to breathe normally. This is a mistake. It has to be. But engineers don't believe in coincidences. We believe in data. I opened my filing cabinet, the one where I keep originals of every important document. My fingers were shaking as I flipped through the folders. Patent documentation, original application, my signature on the cover page. I placed it next to the scanned document on my laptop screen. The difference was undeniable. The tail on the R, the slant of the C, the pressure on the N. The original was mine. The scan was not. I sat down heavily in my chair, staring at the two signatures side by side. Only 3 people had access to my filing cabinet. My cleaning lady, Rosa, who'd worked for me for 12 years and had never taken so much as a postage stamp. My accountant, Tom, who was pushing 70 and barely used email. And Marcus, who still had a key to the house. Marcus, who'd been asking questions about the patent for months. How much does it generate annually, Dad? Is it transferable? Have you thought about estate planning? Marcus, who'd borrowed $5,000 in January for car repairs. Then $15,000 in March for a business opportunity. Then $30,000 in May for temporary cash flow issues. Marcus, who brought his wife Diane over last month, and she'd somehow ended up in my study, looking at my documents. Just curious about your work, Robert. Marcus never talks about what you did. The pieces weren't just falling into place. They were snapping together like a structural failure analysis, each joint clicking into position with terrible precision. My son was trying to steal my patent, and if he was willing to forge my signature once, what else was he planning? I picked up my phone. My finger hovered over Marcus's contact. Then I stopped. In engineering, you don't fix a problem until you understand the full scope. You don't repair one crack while missing the structural failure beneath. You analyze. You test. You document everything. If Marcus was doing this, there was a reason, and I needed to know what it was before I confronted him. I called David Rosen instead. He answered on the second ring. Robert, did you get my email? I did. And I never authorized any transfer. There was a pause. Are you certain? David, I've been an engineer for 42 years. I'm certain. Then we need to file a fraud report immediately. This is forgery, identity theft, attempted intellectual property theft. I know. Do you have any idea who might have done this? I closed my eyes. Yes. Who? My son. Another pause, longer this time. Robert, are you sure? That is a serious accusation. I'm looking at the forged signature right now. It's close, but it's not mine. And Marcus is the only person who would know enough about my patent to attempt this. If you're right, this isn't just civil. This is criminal. Fraud. Forgery. We're talking potential jail time. My throat felt tight. I know. What do you want to do? I looked at the two signatures again. At the photos on my wall. Marcus at 5 years old, holding a toy bridge I built him. Marcus at graduation. Marcus at his wedding. Me standing next to him in my best suit. What I want to do, I want to wake up and find out this is a nightmare. But engineers don't deal in wishes. We deal in reality. I want you to delay the transfer. Tell them you need additional verification. By me, 10 days. And then, I'm going to find out what's really going on. And then I'm going to fix it. Robert, if this is what you think it is, then my son just made the biggest mistake of his life. I hung up, sat in the silence of my study. The morning light had shifted, no longer at the perfect 42-degree angle. The shadows looked different now, harsher. I opened my laptop and created a new folder, project_defense.doc. An engineer's first step is always documentation. I was about to document a war. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I did what engineers do best. I analyzed the data. I went back through 6 months of bank statements, emails, text messages, phone logs. I pulled out my daily planner, where I tracked every interaction. Helen had always teased me about my obsessive record keeping. You document everything like it's a bridge inspection, she laughed. Now I was grateful for it. I created a timeline on my computer, cross-referencing dates and events. What emerged wasn't just troubling. It was a pattern, a deliberate, systematic pattern. January 12th, Marcus calls, says his car broke down, needs $5,000 for repairs. I transfer it immediately. January 18th, I notice my study door's ajar. I always close it. Marcus and Diane had visited 2 days earlier for dinner. February 3rd, Diane asked about my retirement portfolio over coffee. You must have done well, Robert, with all those big projects. I deflect. She pushes. Marcus worries you haven't updated your estate plan. March 8th, Marcus calls. Needs $15,000 for a business opportunity. Won't give details. It's complicated, Dad. Tech stuff. I ask questions. He gets defensive. Why don't you trust me? I wire the money anyway, because he's my son. March 22nd. Find my filing cabinet slightly open. I know I locked it. Marcus visited the day before to borrow a tool. April 10th. Diane mentions over dinner how nice my house is. $850,000 at least in this market, right? I'm uncomfortable, but don't say anything. She continues. Have you thought about downsizing? These big houses are a lot for one person. May 5th. Marcus needs $30,000. Temporary cash flow issue, Dad. I'll pay you back next month. He doesn't pay me back. May 18th. Diane asks about my patent. Marcus mentioned you have some kind of engineering patent? That must be worth something. I give vague answers. She presses. Can patents be inherited? June 2nd. Marcus suggests I meet with financial advisor friend. Dad, you need to think about tax optimization. You could save a lot by transferring assets into a trust. I tell him I already have an accountant. He seems irritated. June 15th. Diane accidentally mentions a nursing home while we're having lunch. My friend's dad moved into one of those senior living communities. He loves it. Someone else cooks, cleans. No maintenance. She pauses. You ever think about something like that, Robert? July 8th. Marcus brings over documents. Estate planning stuff, Dad. Just sign here and here. It's what Mom would have wanted, making sure everything's organized. I don't sign. Something feels off. He leaves frustrated. July 20th. I receive a call from a real estate agent I've never contacted. Mr. Chen, your daughter-in-law Diane mentioned you might be interested in a property valuation. I tell them there's been a mistake. After I hang up, I realize Diane is a real estate agent. July 28th. The patent transfer attempt. I sat back from my computer screen, looking at the timeline. The pattern was clear. They'd been working up to this for 6 months, maybe longer. The small request for money, the questions about my assets, the suggestions about downsizing, estate planning, nursing homes, the accidental invasion of my study, the forged signature. This wasn't desperation. This was a plan. My son and his wife had spent half a year positioning themselves to take everything I owned. My phone rang. I looked at the caller ID. Marcus. My finger hovered over the answer button. An engineer's instinct is to confront the problem directly, to identify the failure point and address it immediately. But I'd also spent 42 years learning that sometimes the obvious solution isn't the right one. Sometimes you need more data before you act. I let it go to voicemail. 5 minutes later, I played the message. Hey, Dad, it's Marcus. Listen, Diane, and I want to come by tomorrow night. We have something important to discuss. A proposition that could really help you out. Call me back. A proposition that could help me out. I almost laughed, except there was nothing funny about this. I called David Rosen again. I need more than 10 days. I need to understand what they're planning. Robert, every hour we wait is risky. If they realize you're investigating, they won't. Not yet. I need you to do something for me. What? I need to know Marcus's financial situation. All of it. Assets, debts, bank accounts. Everything. I can't legally access that information without cause. I'm not asking you to hack anything. I'm asking you to make calls. You know forensic accountants. People who specialize in financial investigations. I'll pay whatever it costs. David was quiet for a moment. You really think it's that bad? I looked at my timeline again. At 6 months of manipulation documented in neat rows. I think my son is trying to destroy me, and I think he's been planning it for a long time. I need to know why. All right, I know someone. Patricia Wong, forensic accountant. She's discreet and she's brilliant. Set it up. Robert, whatever you're planning to do, I'm not planning anything yet. I'm gathering data. An engineer doesn't build a solution without understanding the problem. And when you understand problem, I thought about that. About Marcus at 5 years old, asking me why bridges don't fall down. Me explaining load distribution, force vectors, the importance of every beam knowing its job. Then I'll build a solution that can't fail. I hung up and returned to my timeline. I had work to do. Engineers don't sleep when there's a structural failure to analyze. We work until we find every crack, every weakness, every point where the system is about to collapse. Because if we don't, people get hurt. And right now, I was the person about to get hurt. Unless I could figure out how to redirect the load before everything came crashing down. Patricia Wong arrived at my house 2 days later. She was in her late 50s, wearing a precise gray suit and carrying a leather briefcase that looked like it had survived several corporate battles. David had vouched for her. Patricia doesn't miss anything. If there's financial dirt, she'll find it. We sat in my study. I prepared coffee, engineer's coffee, strong and black. She accepted it with a nod of appreciation. "Mr. Rosen briefed me on your situation," she said, opening her laptop. "I've spent the past 36 hours conducting a preliminary financial analysis of Marcus and Diane Chen. What I found is concerning." She turned the laptop toward me. "Your son currently has approximately $320,000 in debt." The number hit me like a failed stress test. $320,000? Credit cards, personal loans, and a significant amount owed to private lenders. She clicked through screens. Diane ran a real estate investment scheme, flipping houses. They leveraged heavily, banking on the market continuing to rise. When interest rates spiked last year, they couldn't move the properties. They're underwater on 3 houses. Total exposure, $280,000. I stared at the numbers. And the rest? Lifestyle debt, cars, vacations, a boat they can't afford to dock. They've been living significantly beyond their means for approximately 18 months. She pulled up another screen. Here's where it gets worse. Marcus borrowed $125,000 from a private lender 6 months ago. The terms are aggressive, 18% interest, compounding monthly. He's already missed 2 payments. How aggressive? The kind of lender who doesn't use lawyers for collection. My stomach turned. So they're desperate. Beyond desperate. According to my contacts, they have approximately 90 days before serious consequences. Foreclosure on 2 properties. Repossession of vehicles. And depending on who their private lender is, possibly physical consequences. She met my eyes. "Your son isn't just in financial trouble, Mr. Chen. He's drowning." I sat back in my chair. The pieces were finally making sense. The urgency in Marcus's voice when he asked for money. The way Diane kept circling back to my assets. The forged signature on the patent transfer. They weren't just greedy. They were desperate. "How much do I have?" I asked quietly. "Total assets." Patricia consulted her notes. "Based on public records and the information Mr. Rosen provided, your home is worth approximately $850,000. Your patent generates about $45,000 annually in licensing fees, with an estimated total value of $380,000. Retirement accounts, savings, investments, approximately $220,000. Total, roughly $1.45 million. She paused. "Which is significantly more than your son's debt. They want everything. It appears that way. And based on the timeline Mr. Rosen shared with me, they've been positioning for this for months." I stood up, walked a window. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet. Ordinary. Normal lives happening in ordinary houses. My life used to be ordinary. "What would happen?" I said slowly. "If they succeeded, if they got me to sign over the house, transfer the patent, maybe put me in a nursing home where I couldn't contest anything?" Patricia's expression was grim. They'd liquidate everything, pay off their debts, and you'd be left with nothing except whatever monthly payment a Medicaid-funded nursing home provides. How long would that take? 3 to 6 months, if they move quickly. I turned back to her. "And I'd probably die in that nursing home within a year or 2. Heart attack, depression, something." She didn't disagree. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger. Not yet. Just a crystalline clarity that comes when you finally understand the load distribution of a failing structure. My son wasn't just trying to steal from me. He was trying to dispose of me. "Thank you, Patricia. How much do I owe you? Mr. Rosen's retainer covers this. But Mr. Chen, you should know, what they're planning is fraud. Criminal fraud. If you can prove intent and they follow through, they could face serious prison time." "I'm aware. What are you going to do?" I looked at her laptop screen, at the numbers representing my son's collapse. "What am I going to do? I'm going to stop them. But not yet. Not until I have every piece of data. Not until I understand the full scope of the failure. I'm going to invite them over for dinner, I said. They mentioned they have a proposition for me. Patricia's eyes widened. You're going to play along? I'm going to gather evidence. If this goes to court, and it will, I need documentation of everything. Their intent, their plan, their own words condemning them. That's dangerous. If they suspect. They won't, because I'm going to be exactly what they think I am. A lonely old man who trusts his son, who wants to believe this is all a misunderstanding. I met her gaze. I've spent 42 years calculating risk. I know how to manage structural failure. She closed her laptop slowly. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. No parent should have to do this. No parent should have to. But some of us don't have a choice. After Patricia left, I sat in my study for a long time. Then I picked up my phone and called Marcus. He answered immediately. Dad, did you get my message? I did. Come over tomorrow night. 7 p.m. Perfect. Diane and I have something really exciting to share with you. Exciting. That's what he called it. I'm looking forward to it, I said. And I was, because tomorrow night, I was going to start building my case. One documented conversation at a time. I spent the next day preparing. An engineer doesn't walk into a test without proper instrumentation. You need sensors, data collection, redundant systems. I went to Best Buy and purchased 2 small recording devices disguised as USB chargers. Perfectly legal in our state. Single-party consent for recording conversations. I'm the single party. I placed one on the bookshelf in my study, plugged into an outlet, angle optimized for voice capture. The second one in the dining room. Same setup. Both had 8 hours of battery backup and uploaded to cloud storage in real time. Redundancy. Always have a backup system. At 6:30 p.m., I did a test recording. Played it back. Crystal clear. At 6:45 p.m., I took 3 deep breaths. Steadied myself. At 7:02 p.m., the doorbell rang. Marcus hugged me when I opened the door. Hey, Dad, good to see you. Diane kissed my cheek. Robert, thanks for having us. They seemed relaxed. Happy even. Marcus was carrying a leather folder. Diane had a bottle of wine. We settled in the living room. I'd made coffee. They declined. Too eager to get started. So, Marcus said, opening the folder, Dad, Diane and I have been talking. You're living in this huge house all by yourself. You're 65. You should be enjoying retirement, not worrying about maintenance and property taxes, and all that stress. I don't mind the house, I said carefully. But you could do so much more, Diane cut in. She had her real estate agent smile on, bright, practiced. Imagine traveling, seeing the world, no house tying you down. Are you suggesting I sell? Actually, Marcus said, we have a better idea. He pulled out documents from a folder. I recognized a letterhead, a trust attorney's office. We've been consulting with an estate planning expert, Marcus continued. There's a way to structure things that would save you a fortune in taxes and set you up for the future. What kind of structure? Diane leaned forward. You transfer the house into a family trust. Marcus and I become the trustees. You remain the beneficiary. It protects the asset, reduces tax exposure, and ensures everything stays in the family. And you'd live here? I asked. Well, Marcus hedged. The house would be better utilized with a family in it. With our financial situation improving, we could take over the mortgage, handle all the maintenance. You'd be free to downsize to something more manageable. Like what? Diane's smile widened. There are wonderful senior living communities, all-inclusive, meals prepared, activities, social opportunities. Much better than rattling around this empty house. Senior living communities. The exact phrase she'd used 2 months ago. I see, I said slowly. And the patent? Marcus's expression flickered. Just for a second. What about it? You mentioned estate planning. Would the patent be part of the trust? Actually, Marcus said, the patent's complicated. Our attorney suggested it might make sense to transfer it outright to a family member. Simplifies the estate, avoids probate issues. Transfer it to you. Well, Yes, since you're not actively using it, and I have the business experience to maximize its value. How much business experience? I asked. My voice was steady. Engineer's voice. Neutral. Curious. Marcus blinked. What? You work in tech sales. What do you know about bridge engineering patents? Dad, that's not the point. What is the point, Marcus? The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Diane jumped in. Robert, we're trying to help you. You're not getting any younger. These decisions get harder as you age. We're offering to take this burden off your shoulders. By taking my house and my patent. By protecting your legacy, Diane corrected. Keeping it in the family. I looked at Marcus. At my son. Sitting in my living room, holding documents that would strip me of everything. Can I see the papers? Marcus handed them over quickly. Too quickly. I read through them slowly. Trust documentation. Transfer agreements. Power of attorney clauses. All designed to give Marcus and Diane control of my assets, while leaving me with exactly nothing. This is interesting, I said, but I'd like my own attorney to review it. Marcus's jaw tightened. Dad, we've already had attorneys review it. Top-rated estate planning firm. This is solid. I'm sure it is, but I'd still like my own review. Why don't you trust us? The anger in Marcus's voice was barely contained. I met his eyes. I didn't say I don't trust you. You're implying it. I'm being careful. I'm an engineer, Marcus. I don't sign anything without verification. Diane's smile was gone now. Robert, do you have any idea how much time and money we put into this? We're trying to help you, and you're acting like we're criminals. I never said that. You don't have to say it. Your tone says everything. I stood up. I think this conversation is over. I'll review the documents with my attorney and get back to you. Marcus stood too, his face red. Dad, this is ridiculous. You're being paranoid. Maybe, or maybe I'm being prudent. This is about Mom, isn't it? Marcus's voice cracked. You think because she's gone, I'm trying to take advantage of you. That's what you think. The mention of Helen hit me harder than expected, but I kept my voice level. This is about me making informed decisions about my own property. Fine. Marcus shoved the documents back in the folder. Take your time. Review everything. But Dad, we're trying to help. I hope you realize that before it's too late. Before it's too late. The threat was implicit, but clear. They left without saying goodbye. I watched through the window as they sat in their car for 5 minutes, arguing. Diane was gesticulating wildly. Marcus was gripping the steering wheel. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but my recording devices could. After their car disappeared down the street, I retrieved both devices, plugged them into my computer, played back the recording from when they were still in my living room. Every word was there, crystal clear. Transfer the house into a family trust. Senior living communities. Transfer the patent outright. I saved 3 copies. Local drive. External hard drive. Cloud storage. Redundancy. Then I sat back and allowed myself, for just a moment, to feel the weight of what I just heard. My son hadn't even pretended this was about my well-being. It was about control. Access. Assets. I thought about Marcus at 8 years old, crying because he'd failed a math test. Me staying up until midnight, teaching him to check his work, to not rush, to be methodical. Engineering is about precision, Marcus. One mistake can bring down a whole structure. He'd learned precision, all right, just not the way I'd intended. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Dad, I'm sorry for getting upset. This is just really important to us. Please think about it. I typed back, I will. Give me a few days. His response was immediate. Thanks, Dad. Love you. I stared at those 2 words. Love you. I didn't type back. Instead, I opened my project_defense file and added a new section. Phase 2, escalation expected. Because I knew what came next. They'd been building to this for 6 months. They wouldn't wait patiently for me to review documents. They'd push. And when pushing didn't work, they'd try something more aggressive. I needed to be ready. An engineer always calculates for worst-case scenarios. And right now, the worst case was my son deciding he couldn't wait for my cooperation. Over the next week, Marcus called me 4 times, each call more urgent than the last. Dad, have you looked at the documents yet? I'm reviewing them. We really need an answer. There are tax deadlines. I'll let you know soon. By the 5th call, his voice had an edge I'd never heard before. Dad, I don't think you understand how time-sensitive this is. I'm sure it can wait a few more days. No, it can't. Our financial advisor says if we don't act by the end of this month. He stopped abruptly. Your financial advisor? I asked. I thought this was about my estate planning. Silence. Marcus. It is, but it also helps us. Dad, I'm going to be honest. Diane and I are in a tough spot financially. This arrangement would help everyone. At least he was being direct now. How tough of a spot? That's not. We're managing it. But this would really help. How much do you owe? Another pause. Why does that matter? Because if you're asking me to restructure my entire estate to help you, I'd like to know why. We're not asking you to. He stopped, took a breath. Look, we're under some pressure. Some bad investments. It's temporary. But yes, having access to some of your equity would ease things considerably. Access to my equity. That's what he was calling it now. I see. So will you help us? Will you sign? I thought about saying yes. About giving in. About letting them take everything just to preserve the illusion that my son still loved me. But engineers don't make decisions based on illusions. We make them based on facts. And the facts said that if I gave them anything, they'd take everything. I need more time. How much time? I'll let you know. I hung up before he could respond. Then I made 3 calls. First, to David Rosen. I need you to draft a new will. Everything goes to charity. Marcus gets nothing. And I want a trust set up that protects my assets during my lifetime. Make it ironclad. Second, to Patricia Wong. I need you to file a formal fraud report with the Patent Office and the police. Include everything. The forged signature, the financial analysis, all of it. Third, to a security company. I need cameras installed. Interior and exterior. I want full coverage of my property, uploaded to cloud storage in real time. If they were going to escalate, I needed documentation of every move. The cameras were installed the next day. For exterior, 3 interior. High definition, night vision, motion-activated alerts sent directly to my phone. I felt like I was fortifying against an invasion. 3 days later, the invasion began. I was out running errands when my phone buzzed with a motion alert. Camera 3, my study. Someone was in my house. I pulled up the live feed on my phone. The image was clear. Diane. She was in my study, going through my filing cabinet, moving quickly, methodically. She pulled out file folders, took photos with her phone, put them back. She was looking for something. My hand shook as I watched. Part of me wanted to race home, confront her, but the engineer in me knew better. Document everything. Don't interrupt the process. Let her reveal herself. After 15 minutes, she left. My exterior camera caught her getting into her car and driving away. I waited another hour before I went home. Checked the study. Everything appeared normal, except now I knew exactly what she'd been looking for. Financial documents, account numbers, anything they could use to access my money. That evening, I got a text from Marcus. Dad, Diane stopped by to drop something off. Hope that's okay. She hadn't dropped anything off. I replied, no problem. Didn't see anything though? Oh, maybe she left it outside. I'll check with her. He was covering for her. Or maybe they planned this together. Either way, they just committed breaking and entering on camera. I saved the footage, multiple copies, added it to my evidence file. 2 days later, Marcus came by unannounced. I saw him on the camera, standing on the front porch. I opened the door. Hey, Dad, can we talk? Of course. We sat in the living room. He looked tired, stressed. Dad, I'm going to be straight with you. Diane and I are in trouble. Real trouble. We owe a lot of money to some serious people. If we don't pay soon, things are going to get bad. How bad? Bad enough that I'm scared. His voice broke. Dad, I know I've screwed up. I know this isn't fair to ask. But I'm your son. I need help. For a moment, just a moment, I felt my resolve waver. This was Marcus, my boy, asking for help. But then I remembered the forged signature, the patent transfer, Diane in my study, photographing my files. How much do you need? His eyes lit up. If we could access the equity in your house, maybe through a reverse mortgage or a loan with the house as collateral, we could clear the debt and... No, the hope in his face died instantly. Dad. No, Marcus. I'm not putting my house up as collateral for your debts. Then what am I supposed to do? His voice rose. Let them come after us? Let them take everything. You made these choices. You deal with the consequences. That's easy for you to say. You're sitting on over $1 million while your son is drowning. And your solution is to pull me under with you? He stood up, shaking. You know what? I hoped you'd be different. I thought you'd help family. But you're just like everyone else. Selfish, holding on to your money while I fall apart. I gave you $50,000 over the past 6 months, which wasn't enough. It's never enough, is it? How much would be enough, Marcus? My house? My patent? Everything. His face went red. If that's what you think of me, what I think is that you forged my signature and tried to steal my patent. The room went silent. Marcus's expression shifted from anger to something colder. I don't know what you're talking about. Patent US 10234567B2. Transfer request submitted to David Rosen 3 weeks ago with a forged signature that you thought was good enough. That's insane. David has the original documentation. The forgery is obvious to anyone who knows what to look for. This is paranoid, Dad. You've lost it. No, Marcus. I found it. I found all of it. Your debt. Your plan. Diane going through my files. All of it. He stared at me, calculating. Then his expression hardened. You can't prove anything. I can prove everything. Really? You're going to accuse your own son of a crime? You're going to destroy what's left of this family over money. You destroyed at the moment you decided my assets were worth more than my autonomy. Marcus stepped closer. You're making a mistake. No, you made the mistake. I'm just not going to be your victim. He turned and walked to the door. Stopped. Turn back. You'll regret this. Maybe, but not as much as I'd regret letting you win. He left. I locked the door behind him, checked all the windows. Then I sat down at my computer and reviewed the footage from today's conversation. Every word, every threat, all documented. I added it to my evidence file. Then I called David Rosen. I'm ready to move forward. File everything. Fraud report, police report, whatever you need to do to protect my assets. Are you sure? Once we file, there's no going back. I thought about Marcus's face. The cold calculation when he realized I knew. I'm sure. All right, I'll file tomorrow morning. Robert, you should prepare for fallout. This is going to get ugly. It's already ugly. Now it's just going to be documented. After I hung up, I sat in my study for a long time. 42 years of building bridges, of creating connections, of ensuring structural integrity. And now I was about to demolish the most important structure I'd ever built, the relationship with my son. But some structures, once compromised, can't be saved. They can only be condemned before they collapse and take everything with them. The call from Marcus came at 10:17 p.m. 2 days later. I was still awake, reading in my study. Dad, Diane, and I need to come over tomorrow. Final offer. Marcus, I don't think. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. If you say no to this, you're on your own. We won't ask again. He hung up before I could respond. I sat there, phone in my hand, feeling the weight of what was coming. This was it. The final confrontation. They'd either try one last manipulation or they'd show their true colors. Either way, I'd be recording every word. I called David Rosen at 10:30 p.m. Woke him up. They're coming tomorrow. I think they're going to make one last push. Are you safe? Physically? Yes. I don't think they'd hurt me. But emotionally, I trailed off. Do you want me there? I thought about that. Not yet. I need them to think they still have a chance. That I'm still the lonely old man who might give in. Robert, be careful. Desperate people do desperate things. I know, but I need this recording. I need them to say in their own words what they're planning. All right, but I'm filing the fraud report tomorrow morning regardless. The patent office needs to know. Agreed. I hung up and spent the next hour checking my recording devices. All functional. All uploading to cloud storage. I set up one more, a small one in my pocket. Backup recording. Because engineers always have redundancies. I didn't sleep much that night. When I did, I dreamed of bridges collapsing. At 2:04 p.m. the next day, the doorbell rang. Marcus and Diane stood on my porch. Marcus had a folder. Diane had her real estate smile. But neither of them looked happy. Come in, I said. We sat in my study. The irony wasn't lost on me. The room where I'd spent 42 years designing structures. Now the room where I'd watched my family's structure collapse. Dad, Marcus started. We're going to lay everything out. No more games. No more dancing around it. I'm listening. Diane pulled out papers. We need you to sign 3 documents. First, a quick claim deed transferring your house to us. Second, a patent transfer. Third, a power of attorney giving Marcus authority to manage your finances. And if I sign these, what happens to me? You'll move into a facility. Diane said bluntly, we've found a place. It's clean, it's affordable, and it's available immediately. A nursing home. A senior living facility. Marcus corrected. Dad, you'll be taken care of. Meals, activities, everything. It's perfect for someone your age. And you'll liquidate everything I own. They exchanged a glance. We'll manage your assets, Marcus said carefully, to maximize value and minimize tax burden. You'll sell everything to pay your debts. That's not, Marcus stopped. Look, yes, we have debts. Significant debts. And yes, this would help us. But it also helps you. You get security. We get solvency. Everyone wins. Except I lose my home, my independence, and my life's work. You're 65, Dad. How much longer do you really need all this? The words hit like a structural failure. Cold, calculated, pragmatic. How much longer do I need my own life? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean, Marcus? He stood up, frustrated. I meant that you're old. You're alone. You don't need a massive house and a patent you're not even actively using. We're young. We have debt. We have futures. It makes sense for you to help us now, while you still can. While I still can, meaning before I'm dead. Dad, you're twisting my words. No, I'm understanding them. You want me out of the way so you can take everything. And you wanted to sign documents that make it legal. Diane leaned forward. Robert, let me be blunt since Marcus is too nice. You're going to die eventually, probably in the next 10 to 15 years. When you do, everything goes to Marcus anyway. We're just asking you to do it now, when it can actually help us. The room was very quiet. And if I refuse? Diane's smile turned cold. Then we'll have to explore other options, such as competency hearings, medical evaluations, proof that you're no longer capable of managing your own affairs. My blood went cold. You'd have me declared incompetent. If necessary, Diane said, we have an attorney ready. We have a doctor who will testify that at your age, cognitive decline is expected. All we need is a judge to agree, and we get conservatorship anyway. That's fraud. That's protection, Marcus said. Dad, if you're acting irrationally, refusing reasonable help, it's our duty to step in. I looked at my son, at the stranger wearing his face. So those are my choices. Sign voluntarily, or be declared incompetent and lose everything anyway. Or, Marcus said quietly, you could understand that we're family. That family helps each other, and that this is the right thing to do. The right thing. I stood up, walked to my desk, pulled out a folder. Before I sign anything, I want you to look at something. I handed Marcus a document. Patricia Wong's financial analysis. His face went pale as he read. Where did you get this? I hired a forensic accountant. She's very thorough. Diane snatched it from him. You investigated us? I investigated my own son trying to steal my patent. The debt was just context. This is private information. This is public record. Your debt, your failed investments, your loan from that private lender. What was the interest rate again? 18%. Marcus's hands were shaking. Dad, this doesn't change anything. We still need help. What it changes is my understanding of your motivation. You're not helping me. You're drowning, and you're trying to use me as a life raft. So you let us drown? Diane's voice was shrill. You'd watch your own son lose everything? I'd watch my son face the consequences of his own choices. Yes. Then you're a selfish bastard, she spat. Marcus grabbed her arm. Diane, don't. She shook him off. No, I'm done playing nice. He wants to sit on his money while we fall apart? Fine. But he's not going to like what happens next. And what happens next? I asked quietly. She stepped closer. Next week, we're filing for conservatorship. We have documentation of your erratic behavior. Paranoia, irrational accusations. A doctor who will testify you're showing early signs of dementia. 3 days after that, you'll be in a state-supervised facility, and Marcus will have legal authority over your assets. You're planning to have me declared incompetent and institutionalized against my will. We're planning to protect you from yourself, and coincidentally access my assets in the process. However it needs to happen, Diane said coldly. I looked at Marcus. Is that what you want? To lock your father away in an institution so you can steal his money? His face was anguished. Dad, it doesn't have to be like this. Just sign. Please. We're family. No, I said quietly. Family doesn't do this. Then I guess we're not family anymore. Marcus's voice was flat. Come on, Diane. We're done here. They stood. Diane threw the documents at me. See you in court, Robert. Hope that money keeps you warm. They walked to the door. Marcus, I called. He stopped, turned. You should know that I've been recording everything. Every conversation. Every threat. Every admission of your plan. His face went white. You what? I'm an engineer. I document everything, including my son threatening to have me declared incompetent and institutionalized so he can steal my assets. Diane lunged back into the room. You can't use that. We didn't consent to being recorded. Single-party consent state. I can and I will. You bastard. I'm a bastard who has evidence of fraud, forgery, attempted theft, breaking and entering, and conspiracy to commit elder abuse. So when you file your conservatorship petition, I'll be filing criminal charges. Marcus stared at me. You'd actually do it. You'd have me arrested. You'd actually have me institutionalized. So yes, I'd do it. He shook his head slowly. I don't even know you anymore. I was going to say the same thing. They left. I stood in my study for a long time after, listening to the silence. Then I downloaded all the recordings, made copies, sent one set to David Rosen, one to Patricia Wong, one to a safety deposit box. An engineer's redundancy. Tomorrow, David would file the criminal complaint, the patent fraud, the forgery, everything, and my son would face the consequences of trying to steal from his own father. I sat down at my desk and opened the photo album I kept in the bottom drawer. Marcus at 5, Marcus at 10, Marcus at graduation. I'd built so many bridges in my life, structures that would last 100 years, but I couldn't save this one. Some foundations are too compromised. Some cracks run too deep. All you can do is document the failure and make sure it doesn't take you down when it collapses. The legal process moved faster than I expected. David filed a fraud complaint with the patent office and the police on Thursday. By Friday, a detective was at my door. Mr. Chen, I'm Detective Sarah Morrison. I understand you want to file a report regarding patent fraud and attempted theft. We sat in my study. I showed her everything. The forged signature, the recordings, the financial analysis, the camera footage of Diane breaking into my house. She listened to it all, took notes. Her expression never changed, but I saw something flicker in her eyes when she heard Diane threaten conservatorship proceedings. Mr. Chen, this is extensive documentation. I'm an engineer. I document everything. Good. Because what you described, attempted fraud, forgery, elder abuse, these are serious charges. If we prosecute, your son could face jail time. The words hung in the air. Jail time. Marcus, my son, in jail. Detective Morrison must have seen something in my face. I know this is hard, but elder financial abuse is a growing problem. Adult children stealing from aging parents. It's more common than you'd think. I'm not aging, I said reflexively. To them, you are old enough to exploit. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about Marcus at 8, asking me why bridges don't fall down. Because every piece has to do its job, Marcus. If one piece fails, the whole structure can collapse. What piece had failed in him? What had I missed? Or had I missed nothing? Had he simply chosen this? 3 days later, David called. The prosecutor wants to move forward. They're offering Marcus and Diane a plea deal. Confess to the fraud attempt, accept probation and fines, avoid jail time. If they refuse, it goes to trial. What do you recommend? Take the deal. Trial is expensive, emotionally draining, and unpredictable. A plea gets you resolution. And if they fight it, then we go to war. But Robert, we have recordings of them admitting everything. We'll win. The question is whether you want to put yourself through that. I thought about it, about standing in a courtroom, testifying against my own son. If they take the deal, what happens? Probation, community service, fines, restitution to you for legal fees, permanent record, but no jail time. And if they refuse, then we let the jury hear them plotting to institutionalize you, so they could steal your house, and they'll go to prison. Simple as that. Prison or plea deal. I told David to move forward. The next week was a blur of legal paperwork, depositions, statements, more documentation. And through it all, Marcus didn't call, didn't text, nothing, until the day before the plea hearing. My phone rang at 11 p.m. Marcus. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Dad. His voice was broken, devastated. Marcus. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He was crying. I never meant for it to get this far. I was desperate and scared, and I made terrible choices, and I can't believe I did this to you. I sat in the dark, listening to my son fall apart. Why? I asked quietly. Why didn't you just tell me you were in trouble? I would have helped. I was ashamed. And Diane kept saying we needed to take control, that you were old and you'd never miss it, and he stopped. That's not an excuse. I'm not blaming her. I made my choices. Yes, you did. I know tomorrow I'm supposed to accept the plea deal. My lawyer says if I fight it, I'll lose everything. But Dad, I need you to know, I never wanted to hurt you. I just wanted to fix my life. By destroying mine? I know how awful that is. I can't. His voice cracked. I can't believe I did this. We sat in silence for a moment. Are you going to take the deal? I asked, do I have a choice? You always have a choice, Marcus. That's what I'm trying to teach you. Some teacher I turned out to be. Huh? What kind of son does this to his father? I didn't have an answer. Dad, he said finally, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even forgive myself. But I want you to know, I do love you. I know I have a terrible way of showing it, but I do. I close my eyes. I love you too, but I can't let you do this to me. I know. I wanted you to know. Marcus. Yeah. The plea deal. Take it. Don't fight this. Accept responsibility and move forward. He was quiet. Then, okay, I will. And Marcus. Yeah. Don't contact me again. Not for a long time. Maybe not ever. I need you to understand that what you did broke something that can't be fixed. I heard him start to cry again. I understand. I hung up, sat in the dark for a long time. Then I went to bed and slept for the first time in weeks. The plea hearing was in a small courtroom downtown. I sat in the back, watching Marcus and Diane stand before the judge. They both pleaded guilty, admitted to attempted fraud, forgery, conspiracy to commit elder abuse. The judge was a stern woman in her 60s. She looked at them with undisguised contempt. I've reviewed the evidence in this case. The recordings, the documentation, the systematic planning. This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment. This was a calculated attempt to defraud and institutionalize a vulnerable senior. Your Honor, Diane's lawyer started. My client was under extreme financial pressure. Financial pressure is not an excuse for elder abuse. The judge cut in. Mr. Chen spent his career building infrastructure. You tried to dismantle his life. I find that particularly egregious. She turned to Marcus. Do you have anything to say? Marcus looked at me, then back at the judge. I'm ashamed. I betrayed my father. I deserve whatever punishment you give me. The judge nodded. I'm sentencing you both to 2 years probation, 500 hours of community service each, $50,000 in fines, and full restitution of Mr. Chen's legal fees. You will have no contact with Mr. Chen for the duration of probation. Any violation results in immediate jail time. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, they said in unison. Court adjourned. I left before they did. I didn't want to see Marcus's face. Didn't want to risk him trying to talk to me. Outside, David was waiting. How do you feel? I don't know, I said honestly. I won, but it doesn't feel like winning. It never does when it's family. I drove home, sat in my study, looked at the photos on the wall, bridges I'd built, projects I completed, a lifetime of work. And one photo of Marcus, age 5, holding a toy bridge. I took it down, put it in a drawer. Some bridges you build, some you maintain, and some you have to condemn before they collapse, even when it breaks your heart to do it. 6 months later, I was at a community center on a Thursday evening, standing in front of 15 seniors. They looked at me with a mixture of hope and wariness. My name is Robert Chen. I'm a retired engineer, and 6 months ago, my son tried to steal everything I owned. I let that sink in. He forged my signature, broke into my house, threatened to have me declared incompetent and institutionalized. He almost succeeded. A woman in the front row raised her hand. How did you stop him? I documented everything. I gathered evidence. I built a case so strong that when it went to court, he had no choice but to plead guilty. I pulled out a handout. Tonight, I'm going to teach you how to protect yourselves, how to recognize financial abuse, how to document evidence, how to build a defense system before you need one. This was my new project, Senior Legal Defense Network, teaching vulnerable older adults how to protect themselves from exploitation, teaching them engineering principles, documentation, redundancy, structural integrity. After the presentation, several people came up to thank me. One man, probably in his 70s, shook my hand. My daughter's been pressuring me to sign over my house. Says it's for tax purposes. But something feels off. Trust that feeling, I told him, and document everything. Emails, texts, conversations. If it ever goes wrong, you'll need evidence. Did you ever forgive your son? I considered that. I don't know. Maybe one day. But first, he has to earn it. And more importantly, I have to heal. He nodded. Thank you for sharing your story. It helps to know we're not alone. That evening, as I drove home, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mr. Chen, this is Dr. Elizabeth from Riverside Engineering. We're working on a bridge retrofitting project, and we've been following your patent. We'd like to license your technology. I pulled over. Tell me about the project. She explained. A series of aging bridges in rural areas. Structural reinforcement needed. My patent could save municipalities millions. We're prepared to offer a substantial licensing fee. And we'd love your input as a consulting engineer. I thought about that, about being useful again, about my work matching. Send me the details. I'll review them. Wonderful. Mr. Chen, your work is remarkable. We're honored to use it. After I hung up, I sat in my car for a moment. My patent, the one Marcus tried to steal, was about to help reinforce bridges across the state. My work continuing, my purpose renewed. When I got home, I made one final stop before going inside. Helen's grave was quiet in the evening light. I sat on the bench nearby. I did it, I told her. I stood up for myself. I protected what we built together. The wind rustled the trees. But it cost me our son. I lost Marcus. Maybe forever. I sat in the silence, feeling the weight of that truth. You'd say I did the right thing. I know you would, but it still hurts. I looked at her name on the headstone. Helen Chen, beloved wife and mother. I'm gonna be okay though. I found purpose again. I'm helping people, using what I learned, building something good out of something terrible. I stood to leave, then paused. I spent 42 years building bridges. Physical bridges, emotional bridges, family bridges. I learned that some bridges last forever. Some need constant maintenance. And some you have to let go before they pull you down. I touched her headstone gently. I'm still building, Helen, just more carefully now. As I drove home, I passed one of my bridges, a span I designed 30 years ago. Still standing, still solid, still doing its job. I built that bridge to last 100 years. I built my life with the same intention. And despite everything, despite Marcus, despite Diane, despite the betrayal, that foundation still held. Some structures survive, not because they're never tested, but because they're built right from the start, with integrity, with precision, with care. I pulled into my driveway, looked at my house, my home, still mine, still standing, and I smiled, because I'd learned something important. You can build a bridge to anyone, but you can't force them to cross it. All you can do is maintain your own foundation and keep building things worth standing on, even if you're building them alone. Some bridges stand forever. Those are the ones worth building. If you or someone you know is experiencing elder financial abuse, contact the National Center on Elder Abuse at 1-800-677-1116 or visit nca.acl.gov for resources and support.